everyone, Killer here, and welcome to another Minecraft Dalek Mod video. Today we have traveled back in time to the now outdated world of Minecraft 1.12.2, and today I am going to be showing you guys how you can take your builds that you spent a lot of time building in the Dalek Mod in 1.12 and updating them into 1.16 now that the Dalek Mod has been updated to that version. So I'm worked out a little bit of a system that I think will work, and I'm going to be showing it off here on my custom TARDIS by attempting to transport this entire custom TARDIS council room into Minecraft 1.16. Alright, so we got a little bit of work to do to make this happen, and let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so the very first thing that you are going to want to do is to back up your world save file. Now this is extremely important because if you make a mistake at any point along the way, you can just go ahead and go back, grab that backup save, replace it in your world, and it's like nothing ever happened. So if you make a serious mistake, you've lost nothing, and you therefore destroy nothing with this. You might have to start over, but that's a lot better than losing everything. So step one, back up your world save file before attempting to do this. Let's go ahead with step two, and that is to remove any minor modded blocks from your TARDIS council room. So these might be decoration blocks, they might be the control blocks in the control panel, things like that. They are going to have to go. So this just makes it a lot easier to convert your TARDIS. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of these decoration blocks. But before you do this, it might be a good idea to screenshot your TARDIS interior. By doing that, you'll be able to see what blocks went where when we try to replace them later. But the thing about updating to 1.16 is that the Dalek mod was entirely rewritten. Therefore, all of these modded blocks do not exist in the 1.16 version. And that's the biggest problem that we're going to have to face when transferring these builds. So the decoration blocks won't be there anyway, and for me it's just easier to go ahead and get rid of them. And that'll be any modded block. The non-modded ones, vanillas, can stay, but everything that is modded, gonna have to go. Alright, these modded items and item frames are gonna have to go as well. And this, probably just this entire armor stand is gonna go. They have modded stuff on them. Can replace them later. And I'll hang on to the Ultra, so... No. The Fez, come on, there we go. Been a while since I've worn a Fez. Okay, and the safe. Yeah, this safe has got some modded stuff in it. It won't be there. So I'm just going to go ahead and fill this with air. Or set an air block down here. Everything's going to pop out of that, but well. We're updating to 1.16. None of this modded stuff's going to be in there anyway. I think just about everything else can stay. Actually, that's modded. I think that is the majority of my modded blocks in here, as far as just single blocks go, and a lot of those don't have any equivalents in 1.16 anyway, so it's just a lot easier to just remove them, get them out of the way. Now we don't have to worry about them. Okay, once you've removed all of the kind of decorative, not very important modded blocks from your council room, that includes every mod, not just the Dalek mod, but we're going to go ahead and move on to the next step. Oh, actually, I forgot about my floor grates. They give off a particle effect down here. Okay, now we can move on to the next step. The next step is going to be... I have to get rid of these gears too. Goodbye, gears. Okay, finally, now we can move on to the next step. Next step is going to be to deal with all of the other modded blocks that are making up the primary structure of the council room. So this includes all the roundel blocks that you can see around me. Obviously, I'm not going to just go ahead and remove those and then replace them later, because I may as well just rebuild the entire council room at that point. That defeats the purpose of trying to transport this. So we're going to have to do something really clever to figure out how to get around that. So my solution is to replace all of these roundel blocks with vanilla blocks that will still be there and still exist in the game in 1.16. So what we're going to do is use the fill and replace command to replace the roundels with blocks of ore. So ore is very color coded. There's several different varieties of it, so we can tell which ore block is supposed to represent which type of roundel. And nobody ever builds their TARDIS out of ores, so we shouldn't have to worry about figuring out which ores were there originally and which weren't, right? You guys didn't build your TARDIS out of ores, right? I hope not. Anyway, we are going to go ahead and do that. So let's go ahead and demonstrate the fill command. And I'm going to test this out a little bit. So first we need to identify these roundel blocks, what their block ID is, so we know how to target them with the command. I'm going to start with these blue roundels that are the full roundels. Just going to go into F3. And over on the right side of my screen, we can see that these are called the Dalek Mod round things _A type 14. Okay, so that's what I'm going to be targeting, and I'm going to replace these blue ones, let's say, with diamond ore. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to test it on a small scale over here just to make sure I have the command correct. So this is towards the -X direction. So I'm going to stand some distance away where I can see it. And we're going to be heading over into the -Z direction. I'm going to get over here. Let's run the fill command. So that is going to be fill. We're going to need to identify some coordinates. So we're going to be going in the negative direction in front of us. So I'm going to start with -1. I'm going to go down a little bit below me, maybe a block or two. And we'll just leave where I'm at the Z direction. So we're going to use tilde to go to relative to our current position. Going to hit space. We're going to tilde again. And let's go to -4. That way we can just capture as many blocks in front of us as there are. Let's go up to 3 blocks above us. And let's go 6 blocks in the Z direction. Now that we've defined our coordinates, we are now going to set up or identify which blocks we want to replace and what we're going to replace them with. So we are going to fill this area with diamond ore. So that's going to be Minecraft. Use tab to autofill. Diamond ore. It's going to be type 0, that's metadata. And then we're going to replace diamond ore is going to be replacing these round things. So that was the Dalek Mod. Round things _A, and that has a metadata of 14. If we hit enter, this should work. Yep. So you can see only those blocks were targeted, and they were indeed replaced by diamond ore. So if I head over here a little bit, we can grab a few more of those. Yep. Alright, so we are going to be doing that now on a much, much larger scale, which means I'm going to have to pretty much try to encompass as much area around where I am to try to get as many of these blocks in a single command as possible. So pretty much what I'm going to do is stand somewhere in the middle, and I'm going to expand the parameters of this command all around me. Alright, so we're going to start with the positive direction first and see how many blocks above me we want to get. So I'm going to go, let's say, 20 blocks in the positive X and Z directions. And let's go maybe 10 blocks above me. That should do it. And then we'll go to -20. -20 in the Z direction, and -10. And again, we're going to target these round things, replace them with diamond ore. And my area is too big. So let's actually change this a little bit. Alright, so let's try 10 blocks. And this will put a 10 by 10 cube around where I am standing. Actually, more like a 20 by 20 cube. 10 blocks on either side of me in the front and back, and top and bottom, and left and right. So that's going to identify any of these blue roundels that we've targeted and replace them with diamond ore. Let's hit enter. There we go. So I missed a little bit in the back and on the side, so I'm just going to change my position around a little bit, get closer to these blocks, run the command again. Let's go over here, run it again, and finally up towards the front. Okay, and just keep doing that, flying around until you can finally capture all of these blocks of this type. So I think that actually captures all of them. And as we can see, I'm running the command again, and it is saying no blocks are being filled. And that is because we have actually targeted all of those blocks that we've identified. Okay, that's it for our first step. Now we need to go ahead and identify another type of roundel block. I'll go with these half roundels for the blue roundels. And these are round things A type 15. I'll go ahead and replace these with lapis. As you can see, because these are blue roundels, I'm replacing them with ores that kind of are bluish in color. Just as a reminder, you may want to write down which ores represent which types of roundels, because we'll have to be finding the equivalent of these roundels in 1.16, or at least the closest equivalent we can find to replace back the diamond ore blocks with. Alright, so let's go ahead and continue. We are now going to be targeting 15, and we're going to be doing it with lapis. So there's lapis ore, and type 15. Let's hit enter. And now those half blocks are being filled with lapis lazuli. Okay, I'm going to fly around a bit, make sure that I can grab all of them and not miss a single block. I think I got a few down here that I'll have to identify. Yep. Okay, and now we're getting no blocks filled. That means I might have gotten all of them. That actually just said one. I'm gonna double check by flying around here. And it looks like we have gotten everything. Alright, so now we have to just continue moving on. So the ID of these next ones, these white roundos with the half roundos are type 7. So we're going to identify type 7 and find a good ore to replace those with. So let's go back into our command, replace that with a 7, and instead of lapis, let's go ahead and fill it in with gold ore. Okay, if we hit enter, that should identify all of those blocks. And let's continue flying around just to make sure that we capture all of them. Alright, let's head down here and double check. And now we are getting no blocks filled, so I think that is everything. Alright, so now we just have these full white roundos, and if we go back to F3, those are type 6. Let's replace those with iron ore. So let's go to 6, change gold ore here into iron, press enter, and that should replace the remaining primary roundos that I've built this TARDIS out of. Okay. Let's look down at the bottom. And actually, I realized I missed some of the half roundos in the back here. So I'm going to go back to the gold ore one and go ahead and fill these in. And I think that should get all of them. Okay, now I have a beautiful ore TARDIS. The only thing that remains is going to be some of these minor roundos that I've put in here. These are container blocks, actually. I'm going to go ahead and remove those. Whoops. Was that iron? I hope that was iron. Those just had a bunch of records in them for the jukebox. We'll just let them float. These here, these kind of whitish roundos, this was a different type of block. So I'm going to go ahead and replace them with another type of ore. Let's do redstone. Oh, I think I had something on the back there as well. I think those actually were other types of containers. Again, we'll just let the items float. We got the master roundos up there. Those I'll remove, and I'll just remind myself that they were there. And in the back, I think we got a few. So these are the Hartnell roundos. Let's go ahead and do some quartz ore with that. So that's going to be for the full. Then one of these remaining ores, let's say emerald, for the half blocks. And we'll get rid of the door. Okay. And I think that will take most of these custom blocks. Actually, let's get rid of those Dalek blocks right there. And I think everything left in this TARDIS now is going to be a vanilla block. We'll have a few more problems we might run into later, but we will deal with those when we're in 1.16. So now that we have replaced all of our primary core modded blocks that make up the majority of the council room, we can go ahead and move on to the next step. Now that everything is a vanilla block, these should update into Minecraft, into a future version of Minecraft just fine. Alright, so next step, give yourself a structure block. That's going to be Minecraft, structure block, very simple. Let's move on to the next step. The next step is what to do with the structure block. So I have gone outside of the TARDIS. Man, look at that beautiful ore-made thing. Alright, so as you can see, we've got the entire TARDIS here. We're going to go outside, and we are going to target this with the structure block. So structure blocks have a limit of 16 by 16 for gathering a structure. So we're going to have to work within the confines of the structure block in order to grab the TARDIS, but this TARDIS is a little bit bigger than 16 by 16 blocks. So I have actually devised a method in vanilla Minecraft for gathering large structures with a structure block. And I have actually managed to do this with large things like the 1.6.4 Citadel from the Dalek Mod, and put that into the 1.12 version of Minecraft, and as well as the Dalek Mothership and things like that. You can see these in some of my other videos on my channel. That is how I've managed to transport these extremely large builds from one dimension to another or one version of Minecraft to another is through structure blocks. And for anybody wondering about how I did it with the Citadel in 1.6.4 when structure blocks didn't exist back then, well, that's my secret. But let's move on, and I will show you my method for transporting large structures with structure blocks in vanilla Minecraft. So what we're going to do is go to the positive most boundaries of your TARDIS, your council room. So if we go in here, actually, the negative most boundaries of your TARDIS, my apologies. So go into F3, find where the negative coordinate directions are, and go to the negative most corner of your TARDIS council room. So that's going to take me down here, and then what we are going to do is identify the outermost borders of your TARDIS, or the outer extremes. So the council room, I'm going to go ahead and start with these blocks on the side right here, and then I'm also going to choose these ore blocks that stick out here. These are the furthest extremes of the TARDIS, and we are going to use this to start with, and this is going to be the start of our grid. So we're going to surround the entire council room in a grid made up by structure blocks. So this is the easiest way of doing it. We might get a lot of empty space with this first one, but this puts a well-defined coordinate system on the TARDIS that will line up with its outermost edges, and this will save a lot of confusion later on as we add more structure blocks. So I'm going to go down here, I'm going to set a block down since we're in the middle of the void, and I'm just going to make it a stone block. There we go. And I'm going to double check that I am in line with these extremities of the TARDIS that I want to be in. So that lines up with that hallway there, which is good. And then this lines up with those blocks that stick out a little bit like that. Alrighty then. Now we are going to go in line with the bottommost blocks of the TARDIS. So these gold blocks, if I go into F3, we can see that the blocks I am looking at are located at a height of 88. So we are going to place the first structure block at that height, the lowest extremes of this TARDIS council room. So let's go in here. I'm going to go in and grab another stone block, and let's go down until we are in line with block 88. Going back into F3. You can see that this block is located at 88. So that's where our structure block needs to be placed at. I'm going to go ahead and place that structure block right there. And actually, I made a mistake. Let's go down one below where the lowermost extremity of the TARDIS council room is, and you'll see why in just a second. Enter into the structure block and go into save mode. Go ahead and set up the structure size to 16 by 16 by 16. The max size Minecraft will allow us to make a structure with a structure block. As I said, there's a lot of empty space in here, but do not worry about that. This will save a lot of confusion later on. As you can see, we do capture a decent part of the TARDIS with this. And this automatically sets it on top of the structure block. Since we put that one block below the lowermost extremity of the TARDIS, the lower part of the TARDIS does indeed line up with the structure block itself. There's a lot of empty space here, but that does not matter for now. And this looks pretty good, and because we went to the negative extremes of the TARDIS, the structure block automatically lines up in the direction that the TARDIS council room is located at. So this is about as efficiently as we can do it right now. Go ahead into the structure block and give it a name. This is my Snowbird TARDIS, so I'm going to name this Snowbird-1. Do not put any spaces in the structure name. This is important, and this will come up later. So I repeat, no spaces in the structure block name, and actually no caps either. All lowercase, no spaces. Alright, once you've done that, click Done. Do not save this structure yet. We will save all of them at once at the end. Do not save this structure block. I recommend a numbering system, and this will be block number 1, and then as we add structure blocks, it'll be block 2, 3, etc. And that will make this system a lot easier for you, and will save a lot of confusion, I promise. Let's move on. So I'm going to go ahead and use Command Pick Block or Control Pick Block on a Windows. And we are going to grab a structure block with Mbt. This will give us a default structure block that already has this 16 by 16 boundary set up, so we don't have to worry about doing that again. That'll save us a little bit of time. I'm going to go ahead and place it within this corner of the structure block. So I'm just going to add some stone blocks out here and place this second structure block inside of the boundary of the first structure block. Once we've done that, we can go in here, and we need to get rid of any overlap so that this system is as efficient as possible. So we're going to go in here and change the relative position to 0, and we need to offset this by 1. So I'm going to see what that looks like if I do it in the X direction. That indeed works now. So that offsets it in the X direction by 1, and as you can see, this goes all the way out, and it actually lines up with the far end of the TARDIS, and by good coincidence, I think it lines up with the start of the hallway, which is exactly where I want it to go. So if your TARDIS is not fully encompassed by 2 structure blocks, you can take a third one, do exactly what we did on this side, set down a third block within this corner, set that up, and again, within that corner, get rid of any overlap, and that will extend your grid another 16 blocks in this direction. And then when you reach the end, you can always cut off a little bit of that block so that you do not have all the empty space, and that way you can only target the blocks that you need on the farthest extremity, and that'll be a bit more efficient. So however many structure blocks you need to fill up your to cover your TARDIS council room, go ahead and cover that, and adjust the last one to kind of hug the outermost extremities of your TARDIS. This will make the system a lot easier to figure out as we start to save these structure blocks. So I only needed 2, so I'm going to go ahead, leave this with 2 structure blocks. That'll encompass the first half of the structure, but as you can see, we still have another section of this TARDIS to cover. So once I'm done with that first part of the grid, let's move on to the second part. Oh, and of course, I forgot the most important thing. We need to rename this structure block. I'm going to go ahead, that's my second one, name that to number 2. The next one you place, name to number 3, and so on. It's very important not to forget to change that name. So let's move on, and I'm going to do the same thing we did over there. I'm going to go ahead, set down another stone block, and then set down another structure block, again, within the boundary of another structure block that we placed before it. Okay, now we need to remove some of the offset, or remove any of the overlap by changing the offset. And this is going to change in the Z direction, so let's go ahead and change it like that. And there we go, that should get rid of this overlap. And these should line up nicely again. So this is going to capture another part of the TARDIS. This is the third structure block, so we're going to change that to 3. Alright, now we need to move on with our grid down here. And if I were to put it towards this intersection, it would actually overlap with one of these gold blocks. So I can choose to replace that later, or I can put this structure block slightly more offset from where it should be at, but we'll have to offset the boundary a little bit more than usual to change the overlap. I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to set this down. Now let's go ahead and get rid of any overlap. So again, we are within the boundary of these structure blocks, and we are going to have to change this to 0. Start there, and then it looks like I have to move it over by 2 blocks in the X direction. So let's change the relative position to 2. That should set us up 2 blocks in that direction. That should get rid of some overlap in there, but we are still a little bit off. As you can see, we got some overlap. So I think I have to bump this back by 1 in the Z direction, or forward by 1, and there we go. The grid is now lined up. There's no longer any overlap, and that will capture another large part of the TARDIS on the other side. So as you can see, these 4 structure blocks now line up a grid that surrounds the majority of the council room, but we still have some parts sticking out, so let's extend the grid further. I'm going to go ahead, rename this to 4 before I forget again. And again, do not save any structure blocks yet. Alright, let's go in line with the grid once again, and let's start our third row of structure blocks. I'm going to set down another stone block. Set a structure block down within the boundary of a previous structure block. Remove the overlap. And that should line us up with the front end of the TARDIS. Looks pretty good. Coincidentally, this actually lines up perfectly on top with the entrance corridor, so I don't have to worry about capturing that. That's a nice thing. And since this sticks out so far forward, this is going to save a lot of air blocks on us. Let's go ahead and shrink the boundary so that it only goes out as far as this outermost block here. That way we don't have all this open space. And since this is the end of our grid, we can go ahead and do that. I'm going to go in here, that's in the Z direction. Let's see what happens if we change this number to 8. That'll shrink that a little bit, and we still got a 1 block gap there, so let's change it down to 7. And that should hug the outermost extremity of the TARDIS perfectly. So that's the way of doing it as efficiently as possible. Let's go over here to this next little intersection within the boundary of the previous structure block, in line with the previous structure block actually. I'm going to go ahead and set another stone block, set a structure block down on there. And I accidentally destroyed it. And again, we're going to have to change the offsets a little bit. Remove the overlap. I'm going to have to change this on the X direction as well. Looks pretty good. And again, let's go ahead and shrink that dimension down a bit so we don't have all that extra space. That'll line up the grid, and that'll hug the further extremities of the TARDIS, and that will take the lower part of the TARDIS on left and right, front and back, on all the dimensions, so we just have the top part to worry about. However, I have forgotten to change the names of these structure blocks again, so I'm going to go ahead and change that. Let me stress this again. Do not forget to change this naming system, and always number them in order. As you can see, I like to go starting in the front, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, left to right, front to back. However you want to do it, I recommend doing it in order. It saves you a lot of headache moving forward. Okay, so now that the lower part of the grid is done, we can just go ahead and capture the top part of the grid. And we're going to line everything up again with the grid because it's so much easier to keep track of things this way. I'm going to go down in here, set down another block. Set down a structure block again within the boundary of the previous structure block. And this is automatically going to line up for us, which is nice, but we are going way too far in the top direction. We only really need to go a few blocks above here. So let's take a look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That should do it. I'm going to go ahead and change the height of this down to 6 blocks. And that should hug the topmost block of the TARDIS. Perfect. I could lower this by 1 and capture this higher block with the next structure block, but for my own sanity, I'm going to keep the grid all in line. And this is only going to go up 6 blocks. Again, if your TARDIS is much taller, you can leave that as 16. You can increase the height. You can go in and add a third layer to this. You can expand this grid as much as you need to be sure to capture your entire council room. Let me go ahead and rename this before I forget. So on the bottom, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this should be number 7, I believe, but I'm going to go back and double check because I'm very bad at this, at remembering. So, no, that is 7. This is 6. And you are 4, 3, 1, and 2. I messed that up. Okay, well, let me fix this really quickly. So the first 4 were okay. This is why we rename them as we go along and we keep track of our numbering system. Otherwise, this happens. This is why I do them in chronological order. So that's 5. This is 6. And that one is 7. Always double check if you need to and be very careful with your numbering system just so that you can keep track. Or you'll wind up losing your sanity. It's happened to me before. Okay, so over here I'm going to go again within the boundary of another structure block. Set down this one. This should line up quite nicely. Let's change that height down to 6 and change the name to 8-8. Okay. That lines up nicely in the grid. Now we're going to have to place a few more to get these blocks on the other side. So I'm going to go over here. Try to capture this area right there. Set down another block. Set down a structure block right in the corner, but within the boundary of a previously set structure block. Just like that. This should line up nicely, but we're going to change the height down to 6 and change the name to Snowbird 9. I believe it's number 9, and this is why I'm going back to recheck. Yes, number 8. This will be number 9. Okay, so we just need to recapture this last little quadrant here for this last little bit of glass blocks. So I'm going to try to find the best way. If I do this like I did before, we're actually going to wind up inside of the TARDIS, and that'll hide some of the structure blocks, which is okay to do. We can go within the TARDIS actually and set down a structure block. I'm going to keep these on the outside just to make it all easier to keep track of. So actually, you know what? I'm going to go inside. We can do this. I'm going to go ahead, break one of these blocks and go inside. Try to find the coordinate section, the intersection point here. And set down a block, set down the structure block within this. And if we head outside, we can see where this lines up. We can check for any overlap. Which, as you can see, there is some. So we're going to have to offset this a little bit. Which is all right. We'll set that over by 1. And double check to make sure there's no longer any overlap, which is good. And then we're going to lower the height of this back down to 6. That should line everything up, and then we're going to go ahead and give this a higher number. So this will be number 10. And it's perfectly okay to put these within your structure. Nothing wrong with that. Just keep track of where all these structure blocks are located. Let's go ahead and put that iron ore block back. And if we go outside, I believe now that every piece of this TARDIS council room is surrounded by our grid. So within the boundary of a structure block, and every structure block except for the first one is stored within the boundary of another structure block. Okay, double check that your grids line up, that there's no overlap, that your entire TARDIS council room has been captured, and that every structure block has a unique name, and preferably a good number system that is in proper order. Now we can go ahead and save these structure blocks. Recheck the name, recheck that everything's okay, and then press save. In our chat, that's going to say it is saved as the name that we gave that structure block. Let's head on to number 2, press save, and go ahead and do these in order. That's my biggest recommendation, so I'm going to find number 3, save that. Let's go over to number 4 and save 5, 6, 7, and onwards. Okay, and finally number 10. So that has been saved. That is every structure block I placed, 1 through 10. And if you go through in the chat, we can double check. We have numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 are saved. And those are all the ones that we need to do. So that'll let you know if you miss one, because we did these all in order, in numerical order with a number. So if you miss saving a structure block, you can go ahead and recheck your chat and see that everything has been saved correctly. One thing I forgot to mention actually is to, if you have any armor stands or pets inside of your TARDIS, turn on include entities before you hit save, and that will save any entities that are within your TARDIS, including armor stands and things like that. So that's something I forgot to do. I'm going to go ahead and turn entities on and resave all of these. And again, because I did that in order, when I get to the last one, I can double check that I reached all of these. And I only have here 1, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, so somehow I naively missed blocks 2 and 3, and that is why we do them numerically with a numbered system and in numerical order. Except, for some reason I did not save those, I just went ahead and did on. But there's 2 and 3. And 4, I missed 4 as well. That's me not paying enough attention, but that is why we double check. Okay, now we are done with Minecraft 1.12. We can say goodbye to this version of Minecraft. We have got our lovely remodeled council room saved in the structure block format, and we can get out of this horrendously outdated version of Minecraft and move on to the future. Let's move on into part 2 of this video. Alright, congratulations guys, we are halfway through getting our TARDIS into 1.16, and we can say goodbye to Minecraft 1.12 forever. Okay, so as you can see, I have exited Minecraft. You're going to want to go ahead and do that, and go ahead and navigate to your saves folder. This is in your Minecraft folder, and if you are on a Windows, this is going to be in your app data folder. And if you're on a Mac, you can go ahead and go into the Go menu, hold down the Option key, Library option is going to pop up when you do that. Click on Library, go into Application Support, and your Minecraft folder should be in there. As for me, I've got a shortcut in my documents, which makes it easy. But go ahead, navigate to your saves folder. This is where all of your Minecraft saves are stored. And inside of your saves folder for the world that we were just in, you're going to find a folder called Structures. Go ahead and open this up. This is where all of our structures were saved with those structure blocks that we just used. As you can see, I have a large number of structures already saved in this world, including the Gallifrey, or the 1.6.4 Citadel, which took 93 different structure blocks to do. So yes, the system indeed works with as large structures as you want. So I'm going to navigate down until I find those structures I just saved, which are these here, Snowbird. Go ahead and select all of those structure blocks that you used for your TARDIS and copy them. And now go back into your saves folder and find your 1.16 world. Don't know why I labeled that 1.15, this is 1.16, but anyway, find the world that you want to transport your TARDIS into in 1.16, And now you're going to want to go into a folder called generated. Now this is going to be here if you've already used a structure block in this world. It may be here by default as well, I'm not sure. If you do not have this folder, go ahead and make a new folder and name it to generated lowercase. Go in here, you're going to find a folder called Minecraft, or make a folder called Minecraft, again lowercase, and within there is a structures folder. Very interesting. I've got some random structures in here just to play around with. But go inside of that structures folder and go ahead and paste those structures that we saved in 1.12. Okay, now that we've done that, we have to do one more thing. Minecraft is not going to recognize 1.12 structure files in 1.16. Not unless we make a couple of minor changes. You're going to want to download a program called Mbt Explorer. Now as you can see, these are saved as an NBT file. This is how Minecraft stores information in-game. Mbt Explorer will enable you to access these NBT files and make the alterations that we need to get them recognized in Minecraft 1.16. Okay, so I have downloaded that. There will be a link to download this application in the description of this video. So I just have to go in here and find it right there. Let's go ahead and open this up. This will automatically find your saves folder. I'm going to go ahead into the world I'm at, and again, that's going to be in generated Minecraft structures, and as you can see, here are all of these NBT files. Now I'm going to compare a file that I made in Minecraft 1.16 to one of these NBT files that we made in 1.12. I'm going to hit this little plus button, and as you can see, we have a data version of 2586. Let me go into one of the 1.12 files, and as you can see, this has a data version of 1343. Doesn't quite line up, does it? Let's go ahead in here, go into this edit, and copy that value, 2586. Control C to copy. Let's cancel that. Let's go back into our 1.12 files, into this data version, and paste that number. You're going to want to do this with every single file that you've made. We also do not have an author tag in the 1.16 version, so I'm going to go ahead and remove that as well. Okay, that's number one. Let's do this with all the other structures. Edit, paste, enter, delete. Alrighty then, I've done that with all of my structure block files from 1.12. Changed the data version to 2586 and deleted the author tag. Let's go ahead and collapse all of these. Make sure I didn't miss anything. 3, 2, and 1. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead, this is important, and click Save All Modified Tags. That should save all the changes that we just made, and that should be everything we need to do in Mbt Edit Explorer. Okay, now let's reopen Minecraft and go into 1.16. Alright, now we have returned to the wonderful brand new world of Minecraft 1.16.5 with the Dalek Mod. We are ready to transport our TARDIS council room to this newest version of the mod, so go ahead and open up your 1.16 world. Create a backup of that if you want to. I would recommend it. And now that we are in this world, you can go ahead and do this in the TARDIS dimension if you want to. I'm going to do it in the overworld just because I can. It doesn't really matter that much. Let me clear up this clutter. Let's go over here in the middle of nowhere. And go ahead, set down a block so that you can place down a structure block. Or give yourself a structure block. And we can go ahead and set down a block where I'm at. Alright, set down a structure block. And there have been some changes made to the structure block between 1.12 and 1.16. Let's go into the save file. And we can no longer put in spaces, no matter how hard you try, or capital letters. Which is why we had to make sure that we saved our structure names in lowercase letters with no spaces. This is going to default to the Minecraft folder within the generated folder, so we don't have to worry about doing a prefix or anything. And just type in the name that you gave to your first structure block that you placed. Mine was Snowbird-1. Go into load mode, press load, and this should automatically identify that structure and get it set up for you. So this was a 16 by 16 bounding box in that first structure block that is here. So I think, fingers crossed, everything should be good to go. Let's press load. Include entities, turn on. Let's press load again. And there it is, the first part of that TARDIS. Now there are a few minor changes in here we'll get to later, and some of my item frames have popped off of the wall. I can replace those later. That's why it's a good idea to make out some screenshots. But for the most part, it is here with all those beautiful ore blocks. And more importantly, we have more structure blocks that were saved within the first one. Automatically loaded. Number 2 should already be here. Go ahead and put that into load mode. Press load. That should automatically load our second structure block. And boom, within seconds, we now have half the TARDIS council room here. Let's go ahead, go over to this one. This should already be in here. Go from save mode to load mode. Quick load, actually turn entities on. Press load. Shazam. Let me go over here. I forgot about the entities on this one. So if I reload it, we shouldn't have any problems getting those entities back with the armor stands. I'm going to say that on. I'm going to press load again. That should reload this one. And that should give us our armor stands back. There it is, right there. Again, there are some changes. We'll get to that in a second. Let's find the remaining structure blocks, though. I'm always excited when the system works. Oh, no. Okay, so I accidentally pressed the save button. This means I save this entire void space on number 4, which is not good. So what are we going to have to do about that? If you accidentally do what I just did, stupidly saved another structure, that's okay. We still have that structure block. Let me exit the world save and let me go outside of Minecraft. So we're just going to navigate to our saves folder. We still have the original file inside of the 1.12 world. So I'm going to go back into structures, scroll down until I find Snowbird 4, because that's the one I accidentally overwrote. We're going to copy that. Go back into the 1.16 world, generated Minecraft structures, paste this, and replace the old file. And the only other thing we have to do then is go back into Mbt Explorer, or Mbt Explorer, and rechange that file for a second time. Might have helped if I had backed up those folders to begin with, or those files to begin with, so in case I stupidly overwrote one of them like I just did, we won't have to worry about that, but I can go ahead quickly make these changes, change that data version to 2586. Click on save. Make sure you have logged out of your world when you do this. Otherwise, it could cause some bad things. Let's go back into this world. And that should fix the mistake I just made. Let's try this again. This should be number 4. Go into load mode. Press load. I do this quite a bit. I actually do this all the time, so that's why it's not really a big deal when you already have existing copies of those files. Let's load the rest of these structure blocks. Load. That should finish it off. Go back into here. Load. And that takes care of our water problem. Now let's go ahead and do the top half, because we just got this slice here missing from the top, so let's get these top structure blocks. Go into load, press load. Go into load, press load. Make sure entities are on, of course. I keep forgetting about that. Oh, and look at that. My ship's cat actually was able to be transported, even though it is now an ocelot, for some reason. Oh well. And actually we have this structure block, so go into load and press load. Alrighty then. And I think that is it. That's the majority of our structure blocks. That is my original council room in Minecraft 1.16, except we still have a few more steps left to do. So let's go ahead and get rid of these annoying structure blocks. We don't need them anymore. Get lost. I'm tired of your grid. Exterminate. Now it's snowing. Come on. I can take care of those snow blocks later. Maybe it's not a good idea to do this in the overworld. Now I have snow blocks all over my TARDIS. Okay, that gets rid of all those structure blocks. So now we just have to replace the ores with roundels. And make a few other changes from there. Okay, so we're going to use the same fill command and do it in reverse and replace all these ore blocks with roundels. Get out of here. Okay, we have a ship's ocelot and a ship zombie now. Anyway, Same thing as we did before, but first we need to find proper equivalents for all of these. So if you'll recall, the diamond blocks were the blue roundos and they were the full ones. So let's go into these Minecraft tabs, find what we got for roundos, see if we can find the closest 1.16 equivalent. So we got these nice little light blue plastic roundos here, or we got these star-shaped roundos, or these bull roundos. That's probably the closest thing we're gonna find. So, and then these seem to be placed based on orientation as to whether you get the full or the half. So things are indeed a little bit different. We won't be able to do this exactly, but for the time being, let's go ahead and look at this. So this is called Dalek Mod blue underscore plastic underscore bowl underscore roundo. And if they're facing east, that will give us the whole version, and let's see what we can do about that. So again, let's set up a fill command, and we'll need to target coordinates around us, so let's do this 10 by 10 again. And so we need to replace these with the Dalek Mod blue plastic bowl roundo. Let me just mess that up a bit and double check the naming of this. Yes, blue plastic bowl roundo. Okay, we're going to do that, and we will replace Minecraft, not acacia planks, diamond ore. We hit enter, this should work. Yep, there we go. We have a nice roundel equivalent for what we had before. Let's continue replacing these. All the way around. I had some on the bottom too. Let's make sure we get those. Excellent. This water's not flowing out correctly. Let me quickly adjust that. No, that's not going to fix. That's okay. Now we need to move on. So, and I believe if we do these as facing in another direction, we can go ahead and try to attempt to get the half blocks to face the way we want them to. We're just going to have to change the orientation, and doing that should by default change whether we see the half or the full next to the half or the full. Sorry if that sounds like a mouthful. But we're going to want these so the whole blocks are facing this way because we have the half blocks facing this way now. So this is going to be, if we go into F3, and this is just the way 1.16 does things a little bit differently from the way things are done in 1.12. This is facing east. So I'm going to go back into this command. I'm going to add in some square brackets. I'm going to say facing equals east. And we're going to replace these with Minecraft lapis ore. And this should give us a different orientation. If we hit enter, this should replace all those lapis blocks for us. And indeed they did, and this should be in a different orientation from the other blocks. Alright, I might have to go in here and tweak this by hand a little bit to get these orientations right, but for now, I think that's a decent enough equivalent for what we had here before. And now I have a drowned zombie. Excellent. Okay, let's go ahead and do this. We're going to need some white roundos now. So these quartz roundos actually might be pretty close to what we had in here before. So again, we're going to have to change these orientations a little bit, but let's do the default one for now for the gold ore, and then we'll replace a different orientation with the iron ore. So first we need to get this block's name. So this is white underscore quartz underscore roundo. So let's go ahead and change our command to identify that. Let's get rid of that facing tag as well. So Dalek Mod white underscore quartz roundo. We're going to be targeting gold ore, and that should replace it with all these white ones. Boom. Excellent. Not a bad look. Now let's go ahead and do these that are facing east. That should change the orientation of them for the iron blocks. Facing equals east. And we are going to be replacing, instead of gold ore, iron. And that should give us a different orientation from what we just had. Yep, that's half, that's full. Okay, just they changed the way the round was working the Dalek Mod now. So we got to change that facing value. Let's make sure we got everything. Fly around, double check. You don't want any more ore blocks. Actually, I missed some of the lapis, so I'm going to go all the way back up here to where the lapis was and fill that in. And the bottoms are the same, but that's okay. Minor changes, but for the most part, this gets the idea of what this was before. It's not going to be exact because we don't have the exact same block textures that we had in the old version, but this will do. And it seems like we are missing all the quartz blocks I put in here, but that's alright too. I can remember where those were. That was small. Maybe I'll add a caveat at the start of this video to say not to use quartz blocks, actually, because those don't seem to be working in 1.16. Anyway, let me see if there are any heart now routers or anything. Nope. Anything that might be good to replace those that were up here. These green plastic roundos are probably the best we got. So I'm going to go ahead and throw these on here. We'll have to change our orientation if we want to do this correctly. Let's see what that gives us. Yeah, that looks nice. We want just the half, then the full, and the half, etc. If I change that, there we go. Okay, that'll fix that up right up for us. And my dragon head isn't there anymore, and we did have some other types of darker roundos in the corners there. Let me replace those with something that looks close. Probably these black ones here will do. Let me give myself night vision. Alright, that should help with the way things look. Okay, so let's go ahead and replace some more of these roundos that were over here. So those had some roundos there. There were some master roundos up on top. So it's going to be these here. And we had those Dalek blocks on the sides. So it's the closest equivalent that we got for those in this version. Let's put those down there. Okay. Now you might have noticed some of the quartz blocks are... Oh my gosh, some creepers decided to drop by and visit. You might have noticed that some of the quartz blocks are broken as well. We're going to have to do something about that as well. Now I had classic iron in the floor there. I'm going to replace... Ooh. Is this vanilla? Or is this part of the mod? I did not know that was here. That looks like classic iron. Don't know if that's vanilla or not, but that's what was here before. That's what's going to go in here now. But yeah, the reason for this is Minecraft has changed the way it does blocks. So the way blocks are placed, or colored glass, for instance, is also missing. That is because there is no longer any metadata system, which is why we could not replace the roundos in the 1.12 version with something like wool, was because it would not be here in this version. That's why we had to use ore blocks. Also, all the colored glass blocks are gone, so I will have to put those back in manually. And the same with these quartz slabs that were here, because these have all been replaced by stone slabs. So I'm going to have to do a little bit more of some minor adjustments to fix this TARDIS back to where it was. But most of the building has actually been done automatically by the structure blocks, which was the point, was to make transferring this much easier. I get some quartz slabs, which are broken. Go ahead and fix all of this. So default, replace some of the quartz slabs with stone slabs. But that's okay, we can fix that. Get rid of you. As you can see, we need to make some minor tweaks, but it is still a heck of a lot faster than if we tried to rebuild the council room by scratch. And I could probably use the full command if I wanted to, but these corridors are so minor, I'm just going to go ahead and replace the majority of these just by hand. Again, if you've screenshotted the way your TARDIS looked before, you can replace these much easier. Okay, now I had some corridors, some railings that run around here, but I will have to replace those with probably some glass panes, because there's currently no equivalent for this in 1.16 with Dalek Mod. So glass pane should work well enough and give the exact same result that we had here before. Okay, I'm gonna put a TARDIS door down here. Be this set of police box doors. We did have some blocks by the redstone ore, or the redstone ores, didn't we? And I cannot remember what those were. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab some generic roundos here. I think those were container blocks, actually. Place those. I think I had some quartz pillars on the back here, and that had the woe display on it. Okay, and the only other thing left to do is to throw down some decoration. And you can probably take this as an opportunity to redecorate your TARDIS or change its decorations if you want to. I'm going to go ahead and add some Nilium into the council room. It's a nice little contrast. Just because I can. Everybody's probably going to ask me why I'm going with such a horrid color scheme. And the answer is, I really don't know. Let me get some glass blocks for down here. Changing up the beacon color. And we can even throw in one of the new rotors here and still have the beacon come up through it. Let me get some blue glass. And we can rework the top of this. And that replaces the glass on top. Alright guys, and now I have finished making some changes and redecoration. I've added some railings back in, I've fixed the console, and I've added in some new 1.16 decorations for my TARDIS, and this is what it looks like now. So, this is a lot easier than having to rebuild the TARDIS from scratch. I've even got the gears back. But yeah, this is a lot easier than rebuilding the TARDIS from scratch. We were able to import the majority of it with structure blocks, and just a few fill commands was able to swap out the roundo blocks and replace them with some new types of roundos. So from here, since I did this in the overworld, I can easily just go ahead and use the Dalek Mod's new system to make a template of this TARDIS and install it as, I'm not sure what it's called, the data pack thing or whatever, where you can take a custom TARDIS interior and actually share it on Discord with your friends, and you can have a custom TARDIS in the mod. So you can take your 1.12 interiors that, like me, you may have spent years working on and building and putting a lot of time into, and transport them into 1.16, and then use that new system, which there's a video for on the SWD website. I'll put that link in the description as well. And you can use that to share this TARDIS interior with everybody else that you want to. So I could take the Snowboard TARDIS now and share it with everybody if you guys want it. Just let me know. But otherwise, yeah, this is how you can get your custom TARDIS interiors available from 1.12 into the Dalek Mod Minecraft 1.16. And it's not going to be perfect or one-to-one translation or anything. As you can see, a lot of the blocks are different. But for the most part, this council room is still the same as it was before. So I hope this helps you guys. Let me know in the comments if you have any problems. This can be a little bit tedious, and it's a bit of a tough system to work out, and you have to be very cautious when doing this, especially with these structure blocks and with the fill command of that. But like I said, always back up your world, and be sure to do that first, so if you make a mistake, you haven't lost everything. So thank you guys for watching. I hope this helps a lot of you with transporting your builds and not losing them to 1.12, and we can say goodbye to 1.12 forever and just live in 1.16 and move into the future. So again, guys, let me know how this works for you. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope this helps all of you transport your builds. So stay safe out there, and I will see you all in another video. So goodbye for now, everybody.